Gadgets for Family, the tech podcast for the person that spent way too much money last week and the person that took our advice, and Greg has his hand raised, and the person that took our advice and used things like trade-ins and other resources to get the best price possible, and anyone else looking to get more out of their lives through tech. I'm your host, Jay Benjamin.
And I'm your host, Greg Cunningham, and I don't think I spent too much money, but I wish I hadn't had to spend quite that much, but I did, right? And I think this also applies to all of those that are still sitting there waiting for the hand-me-down, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Which is the best part of the year.
please get up at 6 a.m. and order that phone so I can have a new one.
So let's move on to the watch. So we both wear our watches daily, right? So we get a lot of use out of these things. And the one thing I got to say that I'm enjoying are those new watch faces, right? I love all of those watch faces. I love the Snoopy one. I love, and it wasn't even a new watch face, right? I just took your recommendation and went with using those portraits that I take on the phone and scrolling through those and using them with the widgets. But now it's the
Yeah.
new modular watch face on it, and I absolutely love all of those watch faces. So we talked before about paying for premium watch faces, right? You and I both. I know the majority of people won't do it. They're like, why am I gonna pay $5 or whatever for? And they have all these free ones. I would pay for some premium ones, but I actually enjoy waiting for these new ones that come out every year. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Sometimes I get some that I absolutely won't ever use, kaleidoscope and things like that. Remember when they had the liquid metal and the fire and the
I
ice ones?
like
I never
that.
used those.
I used
Did you use
them,
those?
but the problem is there's no complications unless you want to put them on the
Right,
corners and
right,
then it doesn't look as good, right? So you want that
right.
liquid to take up the whole thing. So I might try them again. But here's the thing. I'm with you. I'm probably going to switch back to the Wayfinder and the new
Hmm.
modular one
Yes.
because unless the apps that I use on the watch do a better job with widgets and the little icon in the shortcuts one, right? Where you can put 3 icons down there. Because
Yes.
I need Overcast or Outlook and a couple of those in that little drawer. And if they
Yeah.
don't come out with those, I'm going to go back to using the other one because, yes, it's great to be able to pull those widgets up. But like I expected Fantastical to have some
Hmm.
awesome widget choices on there, right?
Right.
And so
And
they
they still may
released
come.
they might, but they released their update yesterday. And so I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. It's the first one I'll get to test. So, from a widget standpoint, not the little icon, but from a widget standpoint, you can launch Fantastical. You can see
Hmm.
what's next. So, that's either a task or an appointment. Up next timeline, which mine's not even loading on, or you can get the date.
Okay.
And so
So not
I
a lot
just
of
went,
functionality.
nah. And I mean, like, I just loaded the up next timeline and it's got, I don't have anything scheduled, so it's not showing anything. It's just like, on that. But then, so not going to use those. And then when I go into the triple icon one, um, there's not even Fantastical did. Let me try and see what they did. Trying to remove it, and it's not. There we go. By the way, pro tip there: don't try and tap on the little minus sign. Actually, tap on the icon, and then it removes it. So for
Okay.
Fantastical, all you can put on there is today's date, launch Fantastical, up next, which is really doesn't have anything, and how many tasks or how many events you have remaining for the day. So that's not
Yeah.
what I want in there. So I don't know. I'm hoping that Overcast will put that in there. So what I've put in there is music, actually the mindfulness, the to log your mood and
Okay.
messages. So yeah, I mean that widgets, I love the idea behind it, but I need more flexibility
Yeah.
down there. Otherwise, I'm just going to go back to that modular watch face, which will be sad because
Right.
Snoopy is so dang awesome.
And that was my next thing. So, I mentioned that I love using a portrait watch face. I love seeing my kids and my wife and still be able to access those widgets. The Snoopy one, the same thing, and still be able to access those widgets and stuff. But the bad news is, since I've been using the modular watch face, I don't even remember scrolling to look at widgets on this thing. So it's good and it's bad news, but man, I really love this new modular
Yeah.
watch face. It looks really good, and it has everything I need. My home app, my messages, the weather. I can see, activity status and things like that, and the temperature outside. It's just
Yeah.
everything that I need that right there. So it's good and bad. But once I switch back to the Snoopy, which I plan on doing today or tomorrow, I'll um I'll go back to using my widgets and stuff
Well,
again.
especially while you're on vacation when none of that stuff is going to be updating,
Right,
right?
right. None that I don't need any of that
Yeah.
information anyway.
So
Right.
yeah, I'm looking at mine. So that new modular one, I've got my activity rings, the date and the day of the week, and music along
Hmm.
the top. Then I've got the smaller version of the time. Then I've got kind
Okay.
of the expanded forecast that tells you what it is now, what the high is going to be, what the low is going to be, and then, now 12, 1, 2, 3. So that's what I've got in the middle is that bigger weather kind of view. And
Yeah.
then on the bottom, I've got messages, overcast, and outlook. And then I've got it set to where around the edge, every second, it's filling in one of the little lines.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah. Which I mean, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm loving that one. I've been on it for the last week or so since we updated.
So what apps do you have on yours? How do you have yours set up?
So for my job, since I'm working outside most of the time, I have the weather up top. So I have the temperature, the high and the low. Um, this one is it has the sun there, so it shows like whether it's cloudy or whatever like that.
And if you haven't lived
Um,
in Houston, you pay attention to the weather at a micro level.
yes, yes, you do. And then the third one is the chance of rain, which no chance of rain today. So um, and it shows me which area I'm in. So if it's going to rain in 9 minutes in the area I'm in, it usually is pretty accurate with that. So the middle, I have, of course, a digital clock, and then that top complication. What do they call it? The mid,
The big
bottom, or
one,
or something like
the
that.
big
The
one.
big one. That's my activity. So it's the timeline of the activity. So it has the entire day, and it shows the calories, the workout, and my standing hours. Then at the bottom, I always need to have my watch battery life in the middle. So no matter which complication, and I know we can get to it from other ways. I can check it on the phone, on that widget and stuff, but I always like to look at the watch and see. And that's just always it's been ingrained in me from the series one and two and three, because
Yeah.
we didn't have all day battery life. So I
Yep.
needed to see, hey, do I need to charge this before I go to the gym, or do I need to charge this before I leave the house, or something like that? So I'm always just used to having that battery percentage there. So that's right there in the middle. Um, to the right is my home app, and again, thankfully, it pops up and it has the favorites, or the last use or whatever. So the lights I use the most, the garage door, the lights in the room, the things I control the most, they usually pop up first. And I love that. I love that about the app without having to scroll through. And then finally, to the left hand side, I have my messages, which is another one I'm constantly tapping and viewing those messages on. So, and then like you, I have the seconds along the edge. So yeah, everything I need is right here,
Yep.
right here on the screen.
Yep. I
So
think maybe we could do each of us do a short that just shows the face so people can see what we were just talking about and how it
yeah.
looks.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I can record that while on the go,
Yeah.
while being out. So,
Cool.
yeah. So that's it for the watch. The iPad, I know because you have your mini right now. You don't have a pro, so I know you don't get into it much. But what have you used it for?
Health app. I reset up my lock screen with the widgets, and I plan on doing some more widget work using some of the apps that I've been
Yeah.
discovering. So here's the problem. Um, MagSafe has spoiled me, and
Already.
MagSafe plus standby, and I'm just sitting here looking at my iPad Mini that I have to plug in like an animal, to quote Renee Ritchie. Right, I have to plug it in, and I don't have standby mode. Just give me MagSafe on the next iPad Mini and let me put standby mode on this.
Yes.
Seriously, because I would swap. I wouldn't do that with my phone here in my office, right?
Mhm.
I would still use my phone for standby mode at night on my nightstand, But in my office, it would be all iPad
Yeah,
mini if I had that there. So
yeah,
yeah, I've done the widgets and the lock screen, and I plan on doing a little more, but it just, I don't do Stage Manager, which was the big transformation, right? Because
yeah,
they finally got Stage Manager right. I don't do it because I don't use my iPad mini like a laptop. So when I get
yeah,
the new iPad next spring, and I am most likely, we talked, I need to upgrade my laptop because the battery life is just getting terrible
yeah,
on this thing. And I'm probably going to go iPad instead of another Mac. So, especially now that I think we've worked out a few of the ways that we can record.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, when I go there, I'll fiddle around with a lot more stuff. But beyond that, I mean, even when I looked at Federico Vitici's iOS 17 and iPadOS 17 review, there was
Hmm.
very little that was iPad specific beyond, how you do some of the widgets and the
Yeah,
changes to Stage Manager.
yeah, yeah. So you're right. So I have two things, and we can save these for another show too when we do a deeper dive, because I'm sure we're going to talk about Stage Manager and ways to use it, um, in your daily lives, in a lot more detail. But the first thing I had, it was Stage Manager, and man, I love the freedom to be able to resize these windows and move them around, and they don't have to snap to Apple's fixed locations that they had originally. It just a simple thing just made it so much better, right? So um, that's one thing. So the second thing is kind of a weird little story. So if you guys have been listening, I've been excited for these widgets on the lock screen, and not necessarily the interactive widgets because that's cool on all devices, but just having lock screen widgets was something that I look forward to. I was looking forward to. Now I set the widgets on my iPad. I got them, installed the beta, started playing around with them, got them set, and I'm like, just for consistency, I set them the same way on my a couple of the same widgets on my iPhone too. I find myself not using the widgets on the iPad at all. I've used the iPad with the iPhone widgets, lock screen widgets, more than I have on the iPad. And we've had lock screen widgets on the iPhone since iOS 16. So
Yeah.
it's weird. Somehow adding those widgets to the iPad has forced me to use it on my phone more. So I don't know. I thought that was a funny story that I would share. Um, but other than that, just like you, the health app is one thing that I go to daily on the iPad. I use Stage Manager more than the other methods of multitasking, split screen, and slide over. I don't believe I've used either one of those since I've started using the Stage Manager full time. And yeah, yeah. So not much with the iPad, but still really great experiences.
All
So
right. Well, yeah, I mean,
well,
this
yeah,
is this is your main device, so we'll see. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just the changes that they're making are really not designed for the mini. At least not what I do on the mini,
no,
right? So,
yeah. I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'm pretty sure a new Mini will come with its own new features and stuff like that. But until then, yeah, like I would always complain that the iPad was just getting stretched out versions of iPhone apps, and they finally got around to focusing on the iPad. Then there was a period where the 12.9 inch iPad was just getting stretched out versions of the iPad. I think that the iPad Mini is just getting shrunk down version of iPad apps now, and not necessarily taking advantage of that smaller screen and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
but we'll see.
I agree.
Always the future to look forward to.
Yep.
All right, Greg. Well, that's all I had this week. You want to throw anything else in the post show?
I don't think so. I'm excited about the
All
next
right.
couple of weeks. Get new stuff this Friday. Maybe if I'm lucky, my phone will show up the Friday after the 29th. So
Yeah, I think so. I think you'll get it sooner than that first week in October. So we'll see.
either way, I hope it comes on a Friday because, or that I've gotten all my consulting work done before it shows up that day, right? Because I'll be
Right,
done for a
right.
couple weeks. I don't know if I'm going to start from scratch now. You know what I mean? If I'm
Yeah.
really tweaking this phone to get it the way I want, there, I can see both sides of it. I remember that, a couple of times when I've started from scratch, I lose like game progress, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But like, there's one game that I've
Hmm.
played for a decade, Temple Run, uh,
Yeah.
Temple Run 2. And I remember one time I lost a bunch of progress on there and I was so mad. I don't play it all the time and that's not really that big of a deal. But so I don't know. maybe I guess we'll find out once I say, oh, I set up the phone, and we'll talk about how I set it up.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I think you can restore from your backup and still get as much as a new experience as you would starting from scratch. I think starting from scratch would just give you more time to explore and reset those settings and recustomize things and may
yeah,
rediscover some things that you don't remember that that you had. But other than that, I don't see you. I think you can restore and still get a good experience.
yeah, we'll see when it comes up. What kind of a mood I'm in, or if I did, like a couple of times I've done it where I started to restore from scratch and then got so frustrated putting in passwords and said, never mind, wipe and restore from backup, right? So,
Yeah. So,
hey,
okay. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
thanks everyone.